So this is the story on how I finally woke up completely. It kind of comes full circle, and it does make a lot more sense when you listen to my previous episodes on my marriage and divorce to Troy, but especially the episode The Brother, because this has to do with the episode The Brother. And some things had been revealed about Troy, my ex-husband's brother, that he had abused my ex-husband. And for me, all those things were new. I had been married to Troy for a few years at this point, and I had no idea any of that stuff had happened. So I was very blindsided also by the things that happened with Troy, why he really was disfellowshipped. He was disfellowshipped at Bethel for hooking up with guys. And what he had told me when we met and got engaged is that he was disfellowshipped because he abused prescription drugs at Bethel, and they kicked him out and disfellowshipped him. And I thought, wow, they're like really cruel and mean, like this teenager. I had no idea that any of this stuff had happened. So later, I find out that when something happens, like any incident with you or pertaining to you, your congregation has a file. They write down your judicial committees. They write down things about you. And even when you move, you get a letter of recommendation. And it completely depends on what elder you get that writes this. They can write whatever they want to about you. If this elder doesn't like you, there's going to be bad things in that letter, and you will never see that letter. You don't know what they're writing about you, but sometimes you do notice a shift in how you're treated as soon as your letter has arrived to your congregation. But main thing here is the elder body knew that Troy had hooked up with guys. And when I was marrying him, not one elder talked to me about it. And even during our marriage, when there were huge problems and I would go to the brothers, not one elder, and they had this information and they knew that he was doing this. And I would say like weird things were happening and I could feel like something wasn't right. Not one elder had the decency or kindness to take me to the side and kind of warn me or help me out, because over years I had no idea, and I didn't even suspect this. I didn't even see this coming. This was completely blindsiding to me. So what had happened with Troy's brother, who abused Troy and groomed him when he was little, is that he had moved away and he stopped going to meetings. Like, he was basically inactive. And I felt like that was such an answer to my prayers, because I felt like he's not endangering anyone. We don't have to deal with him. We don't have to see him. My kids really don't remember ever meeting him at all, because we just had nothing to do with him anymore, and he had moved away. So that was really, like, I was glad. But he started in the new state going back to meetings, and I thought, that's kind of, unsettling. And I mean, on one hand, as a Jehovah's Witness, you're always kind of glad when someone returns to Jehovah and all that, but I just could not see this person as someone who was truly trying to do what's right. To me, it was just like danger around this person, and he seemed very shady to me. Like, all red flags went up to me. And so then this Troy's brother moved to the foreign language congregation in that state. And again, to me, that was really worrisome. And then especially when you know that someone is a brother who's a Jehovah's Witness, we are so groomed to think they're all good people. So it was just very worrisome to me. And so I went to the brothers and I had heard that he actually started studying with a little kid. And I'm like, why? Why? And that was a case with me in foreign language too. I had a lot of studies with kids. That was just like the norm. It was really fun and it helped you get hours when you pioneered. It was just really great. But for him, and it's like this dude gets a study with a kid. It's just, I was worried. But I don't even know where he is at this point. I don't know what congregation he's in. I just know like basically the state. And I go and I talk to the elders and I'm like, this is worrisome to me because you guys know from Troy himself, and I'm in hindsight pretty sure they had a file on the brother because they asked all the information. At this point, I didn't know that they have files for pedophiles, but I am so sure that Troy's brother has a file. And so I said, this is so worrisome to me that they gave him a kid to study with. And I heard that from family members, like, because they were really proud. Oh, he's doing so great. He's even studying with this kid in the congregation. I'm like, oh my gosh, that should not be happening. That is so worrisome. And the elders were like, you need to let this go. You need to trust in Jehovah and rely on Jehovah. And you need to just let this go. You're never going to find peace. Leave it in Jehovah's hands. The famous sentence, leave it in Jehovah's hands, which basically makes people inactive to problems. Like it's like learned helplessness, where everything in your body brittles and this is wrong and they should be doing something. Like he should not have a study with a kid. And they're telling you like, you better shut up basically. So it continues that after a while, this guy that I never trusted, that I always saw as shady, starts dating a lovely, beautiful sister. And the sad thing is, among Jehovah's Witnesses, the girl-to-guy ratio is enormous. Men are more likely, and this is a research study, I can provide you the statistics if you want to in the comments. It's a research done. Men are more likely to leave cults. Women are more likely to stay. That's sad. So in the Jehovah's Witnesses, we have far more sisters than there are brothers, and you notice it wherever you go. You see this. But it also makes your dating pool shrink. And so even Troy, he would say, only among Jehovah's Witnesses do you see like gorgeous girls dating guys where you were like, this would never happen in the real world. And I don't believe that anybody's out of anyone's league or anything. This is just something that he would say, where it's like, basically what he meant is like, any dude can get the most beautiful of sisters. That's what he meant. I'm not saying that's true or not. It's just that it's very hard to meet someone when you're a Jehovah's Witness sister. So this sister, she's probably in her 30s and just probably so happy to find someone who to her looks wonderful, right? Like, oh, he has a study and, oh, he's getting married. And then they appointed him as a ministerial servant. And to me, I'm like, how's that even possible? How is it possible that they are appointing him as a ministerial servant, which is a position of power, which is a position where you really view as someone as truly godly? And again, I went to the brothers and I'm like, this should not be happening. He should not have a position. It's one thing if he goes to meetings, but he should not have a position in the congregation. He is a pedophile. And they said to me, he was appointed by Holy Spirit. And I remember this. I said, no, he wasn't. That's a huge crack in your foundation when you say, no, he wasn't, because your whole belief system is that you believe that elders and servants are appointed by Holy Spirit. And I knew that couldn't be the fact with this guy. And plus, I looked him up on social media and he was up to his old shady ways. He was doing stuff that a witness wasn't supposed to do. He's always been just so fake. And well, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to like write his parents because the dad's an elder and they know where he is. This is so questionable. Like, and plus, look at, he's like still doing a bunch of stuff online. And instead of like the elder dad writing me back, the mom writes me back a fiery message. I mean, wow. Over the years, the mom, she never, I really wanted to reach an olive branch of some sort and would try to be close as a family. And I just don't think that she wanted that, because I don't think she wanted to be close to anybody. So yes, both boys, they grew up in a household where the mom really isolated herself. She didn't have people over. I don't know what she went through as a child. I have no idea. But to me also, again, like, she wasn't really like this kind person. Like, you think if you're really trying to be a Christian, shouldn't you be kind? So I would try to send her pictures of her grandkids, and there was always some criticism attached to it. Like, I don't think they should be doing that, and that's not appropriate. Till I finally gave up, and I told Troy, where we were still married, I'm not going to even try anymore. If you want to send her pictures, have fun. And one of our babies ended up in the NICU, and when he was born, you would think like the grandparents would show up and be there when their grandbaby is born, because, you know, that's what you do. They didn't live far away at all, and they didn't show up for the birth, but then the baby had to go to the NICU. And in the NICU, they said only parents and grandparents can visit the baby in the NICU. And here, the grandparents, Troy's parents, never came. 3.5 weeks in the NICU, and they did not come. Nor did they ask, like, do you guys need anything? Kids, there was just nothing. And Troy was furious, and I understood. I'm like, I can't even believe like what I'm seeing or not seeing. But that's kind of how they were. They were just missing in action, really. And these are their only grandkids, and like, no, there's nothing. They haven't now seen 2 of their grandbabies for years. It's been years. And part of the reason is I think they're so busy in the congregation preaching, and he's an elder, that the time passes and you didn't make time for what's really important, which is your grandkids. Even through the divorce, the mom said to me, for the kids' sake, I think you should stay single and not remarry. I mean, that was like her one piece of advice going through this divorce. And I thought, wow, like, how inappropriate is that to say to something like, everything your kid put me through, your kids, really, both of them, you know? And then that's what you say. There was no love or kindness or really me by myself with my mom. It felt for a while like it was us 2 ladies with the kids, and there was just no help or support. You would think like they could be there somewhat, because we were all still, you know, in the quote unquote truth, but there was just nothing there. And one incident that was just really like the nail in the coffin for me, where I just had it, was we had just moved states and I was at a convention. Troy was disfellowship, but we were still together. That was the second time that he had got disfellowship while we're still married. And this sister follows me to the bathroom, and she says, I think I know your husband. And I thought, oh, that's like so highly unlikely. We're like from so far away. But then she said, his name's Troy, right? And I'm like, yeah. And then when she said her name, I remembered her from stories that Troy had told, because they used to have the book study at this sister's house, and they loved it because they played with her kids, and it was so much fun. And it was just like this beautiful brotherhood experience to me, you know, because the convention is more than just talks. It's like meeting people and talking to people. It's just, to me, it was very touching that she came and like she couldn't talk to Troy because he was disfellowship, but she came and hugged me and she's like, please tell him we love him and we can't wait for him to come back. It was just very touching. So I'm still in the bathroom after I meet the sister that Troy's whole family grew up with and knew. And I write Troy's parents, you won't believe who I just met in the bathroom. This is so cool. And the mom writes me back. I'm a grown A woman. I'm a mom. His mom writes me back, you need to go sit down and pay attention to the program. Oh my God. Like what? Wow. Yeah. And so that's kind of how it went when I was trying to talk to them about Troy's brother. And one of the sentences that she wrote me was like, you can't freeze people in time. And if you have anything to say, you can go to him yourself, which, okay, I don't even really know where he's at or whatnot. And this is such a weird situation to handle because, like, the thing, it didn't happen to me, but I knew about it firsthand. But the elders knew about it. And really, Troy's dad knew about it too. But I don't think that they could even cope because this was their kids. I understand that. It's a horrible situation. But to me, just something needed to be done. This was not safe. And on top of that, he just got engaged to this lovely, lovely sister. And I just thought, she's going to go through everything that I just went through, which I'm sure she is. And I thought the bottom line is that this sister deserves to know who she's marrying. She deserves to know that he was promiscuous, that he'd had sex with men. She deserves to know that. Whatever decision that she makes after that is up to her. It doesn't really matter. But I feel like I was just never even given the chance to make a decision, an open and honest decision, because no one gave me that insight. And this sister deserved to know. So I went to the brothers and I'm like, look, I just went through hell. Years of hell and also gaslighting because I'm sure she thinks he's this wonderful brother, as I thought. I'm so lucky I married this wonderful brother. And I said, she just deserves full disclosure. And the elders told me, if you aren't quiet about this, then you're going to get in trouble. And the way they said it was basically like, woman, shut up. Really, it felt like it. And it was such a slap in the face. And I'm like, the loving and kind thing to do is to have a full disclosure talk with this sister who she's marrying. She deserves that. And they were like, you better stop it. So I went to the therapist and I told her the whole story. And she knew. And the therapist gave me good advice. Because she said to me, you can't go to this girl with a story that you can't back up, because I don't really have any proof in hand. But if you have anything that's evidence, that you can let her know that, it's not made up. It's not a story you told. It's like evidence, concrete evidence. And I said, all right. So I'm thinking, I'm like, first of all, I don't even know who this girl really is. I don't really know anything about her, but I feel like I could maybe find her because the Jehovah's Witness, it's just a small community really, and everyone knows everyone. And so the piece of evidence that I had where it just was a little bit of a shock because you would think this wouldn't happen to a Jehovah's Witness was I actually found Troy's brother's mugshot. I don't know why he was arrested. I have no idea. It could be anything. Could be a headlight. I don't know. It doesn't say. It's a mugshot though. And I thought, the sister thinks I'm marrying this like wonderful guy. But here, you have a Jehovah's Witness man mugshot. So that kind of makes you at least realize he's not all that. That's all I had. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to try to find her and I'm going to just get that mugshot to her just so she has like a glimpse at least of that he's not who he says he is. So wouldn't you know it, I started looking up like Jehovah's Witnesses in that state that he had moved to, and I found her. And I found her because she had pictures with him, like engagement pictures on social media. And I can't even believe it. I did find her, and then I sent the mugshot to her, and that's all. I left it at that, just to let her know. She did marry him. And my heart goes out to her because she has no idea, and it's sad. I still don't know what congregation they're in. I just at least let her know, though. Maybe just kind of like, be careful. Like, this is just like a be careful. But who knows? So I was just completely stunned with this whole situation. The fact that they let somebody who had knowingly abused a kid and then give him a Bible study with the kid. And I could not get over it. I was so shocked that the elders didn't do anything about it. I was so shocked that they told me to quit or I would get in trouble. And I'm talking to my best friend about it one day, and I'm just like completely beaten down that no one is taking this seriously. And my best friend said like the golden sentence to me. This was the sentence. Really the sentence that woke me up. She said, and that is why the organization has all these lawsuits because of child abuse. And I said, what? And she said, yeah, they're being sued for millions of dollars. I had no idea. I did not know this. I said, what? She's like, yeah, because they're not handling it right. And I said, I saw this happening. Plus, another friend of mine, her kid actually got abused in the bathroom at the Kingdom Hall. And the perpetrator denied it and is a servant, goes to international conventions, wears the lanyard of like, I'm an honorable attendant at the convention. The kid grew up disfellowshipped. It was so hard. And they actually disfellowshipped the victim. So I knew that story. I now knew my story of it not being handled at all. And she said that sentence. I went straight to Google. And this is something that Jehovah's Witnesses don't do usually. They don't Google themselves. I Googled everything. The floodgates were open. The Australian Royal Commission with Jeffrey Jackson. All the child abuse stuff. I watched a 60 minutes on Jehovah's Witness child abuse. I read the cases. I watched the Candace Conti case. And the floodgates were open. There was no holding back. Everything that I was reading, I would tell her. And we would talk about it completely openly and freely. And then there was no holding back. So now I'm in the process of waking up. But it is a very, very confusing time because not only did I just go through a divorce and I just moved also to a place where I'm surrounded by Jehovah's Witnesses. They lived on basically every street in every direction around me. And what are you going to do now? So we'll talk about more of this tomorrow because really waking up is a whole process.
It's a pedophile paradise within the organization.